Hi guys, and a very warm welcome to this video series on the legend Hans Zimmer from Synapse Audio. My name is Larry Holcomb, aka Get to Know, and I'm delighted to be delivering this video series. So as I said, the legend Hans Zimmer has obviously been developed in collaboration with Hans Zimmer. I don't know how that came about. Maybe he was a fan of the original Legend plugin from Synapse Audio and wanted to kind of have his own custom one built in with some extra features that he requested, and that became the plugin. I'm not sure, but it's a very interesting collaboration. Hans Zimmer, obviously, you'd associate with the multiple award-winning film compositions and scores he's created. So it's quite interesting that it's a very kind of analog synth-style plugin, which has been designed in collaboration with Hans Zimmer, who you kind of maybe associate more with, orchestral pieces. So this plugin is building on the original Legend, but it's added in some extra features. That includes an additional 3 oscillators. So you can see we've got 6 oscillators now. A modulation matrix, you can see this at the bottom here. A 32-step sequencer as well. You can see that down here. A multi-stage envelope generator up here. And the effects have been increased as well. If we just flip over to the back screen here, you can see some extra effects, and we have this fixed filter bank as well, which is an emulation of Hans Zimmer's vintage 914 fixed filter bank, which is a hardware filter bank. So loads of new features that have been added in there. Okay, so in this first video, we're just going to talk about the interface of the plugin, so we're aware of what all the areas are and how we access them. So that'll allow us to have a kind of good bird's eye view of the plugin and overview moving forward. Okay, so the plugin is split into a front panel and a rear panel. And we've already seen that when I clicked on this button here, we could access the rear panel. So we'll start off with the front panel. So we have our kind of top toolbar up here, various different features, including, importantly, the presets here as well. So you can see these have been organized into folders here. Let's give a few of them a little blast. Another one. So hopefully you can hear the range of kind of sounds you can make with this plugin. Now, whenever you want to reset the patch, all you need to do is right click anywhere not on a knob itself, so kind of in the space, and we can say initialize patch, and we'll get a nice pure sawtooth wave. Okay, so that's the top area up here. And then we have the next section down here where we have pitch bend, mod wheel, and things like our portamento controls. And then we have that multi-stage envelope generator here, which allows you to create quite flexible envelopes for modulation. Then we have the output section here as well, where we can set things like polyphony, and we can spread the voices, switch on effects, etc. in our output volume. Okay, then we have the oscillator section here. So this is where we're going to be creating the kind of raw sound, essentially using oscillators. The mixer section is where we are able to blend between the oscillators. So you can see we have 6 volume controls corresponding to our 6 different oscillators, so we can get the correct blend of those raw materials, those raw oscillators, to create our sound. Also a noise generator here as well, and some drive and some feedback settings. Then we have the filter and the amplifier. So you can see we have our filter section here, our filter envelope, dedicated filter envelope, and then an amplifier envelope as well. And then coming down to the bottom here, we have our modulation matrix. So this is where we can route modulators, things like envelope generators, LFOs, etc., to affect targets. So that could be, for example, the filter cutoff or the pitch if we wanted to create a wah-wah effect or a vibrato effect. So loads of flexibility here in terms of setting these up. You can see this is where we can bring sounds to life. And then if we click on this button here, as we already saw earlier, we can access the arpeggiator and sequencer section. Okay, so that's the front panel. Let's flip across to the back panel here. So then moving over to the back panel, we have the global section here, which is where we have various different kind of global controls, things like tuning, pitch bend, range, etc. Then we have a modulation section here. And this is where we can kind of shape certain things. As you can see, it's a simulation option. So it's kind of simulating different kind of styles of analog synthesizers. And then we have the oscillator section here where we can set the phase, things like drift again, kind of setting how analog this is going to sound. Filter, same thing here as well. And we have the amp section here. We can add in some saturation. We can add in kind of a main frequency hum as well. This is the fixed filter bank, which is being added in at Hans Zimmer's request. So it's basically modeled his vintage filter bank. So we'll have a look at that later on as well. Then we have our effects. We have a phaser, a chorus, a reverb, a delay, and an additional compressor as well. And then coming down to the bottom here, we have that same option to access the mod matrix or the arpeggiator sequencer. Okay, so just to finish up for this video, let's have a look at how we can interact with the knobs on this plugin. So, as you'd expect, you can kind of left click and drag vertically up and down to change a parameter. You can hold down Shift to get finer increments like so. Now, if we want to reset a parameter, we just need to hold down Command and click, and we reset that to its default setting. You can also use the mouse wheel as well if you want to, if you have a mouse with a wheel on it. The mouse can also be used to zoom in on these envelopes as well, as you can see there, so we can get a bit more precise. Now, in addition, we can control any parameter using MIDI. So if we click MIDI learn, move a parameter on our hardware controller. I'm using a little Akai keyboard here. This is now assigned. You can see I'm moving it with the keyboard. If we want to remove this, we can say MIDI forget, and now that's no longer assigned. I'm moving the knob and nothing's happening. Now, in addition, we can choose the size here. So it's set to default. We can make this smaller, larger, or huge, depending on what kind of screen real estate you've got. And also we have the ability to change various different aspects of its appearance as well. We can kind of change the color scheme, the brightness, and kind of sharpness. You can see there's a little bit more texture. So depending on your preference, you can change that as well. I'll just leave that on the defaults. Now, just to finish up, let's go about showing you how to save a preset, which is important if you make something you like. So we just make some changes here. Okay, so we've made a kind of squelchy bass sound. So if we come up to the top here, we click on this button here, we can say choose patch file to save. So we call it Crew 3 bass. Let's save that into user. Save, you can see that's now accessible from the user library here. So now we can start to build up our own library of patches if we want to use them over and over again. Okay, we'll come back later on and have a look at the presets in more detail, but we'll leave it there for the first video. So what have we learned? Well, we've learned that the Legend has been designed in collaboration with Hans Zimmer. Now, what I should say is the Legend, the original plugin, is designed to emulate kind of Moog-style synthesizers, like subtractive analog synthesizers. It's got that really fat kind of Moog-style sound. And this new version, the Legend Hans Zimmer, has been designed alongside Hans Zimmer. We've got some additional features, 3 extra oscillators, the sequencer, the multi-stage envelopes, and we have this fixed filter bank and some additional effects as well. Now, in terms of the interface, it's split into a front and a rear panel, which we can access by clicking on this button here. We have the kind of top toolbar up here. Then we have pitch bend, mod wheel, various different kind of portamento controls here. The envelopes, we can access those. Output section over here. These are our oscillators where we can create the sound. The mixer is where we can blend the oscillators together to create exactly the kind of mix we're looking for. Filter and amp section. So we've got our main filter here, a dedicated filter envelope, dedicated amplifier envelope. Then we have a mod matrix, which is a new addition as well. Sequencer located here as well. We click on the button. And coming to the rear panel here, we have various different global options here. These are options which you're not going to be using necessarily as much, but these are, as it says, simulation options. So we can kind of look to, simulate different styles of analog synthesizers using some of the parameters here. We've got things like oscillator drift and phase, etc., modulation, pitch range, cutoff range, and shapes. We're going to go through all this in more detail. And then we have that fixed filter bank we talked about, phaser, chorus, reverb, and delay and compressor. So some additional effects added in there. And remember, you can also access your mod matrix and sequencer from the rear panel as well. And then remember, to save a preset, all you need to do is click on this little button here, and it'll come up with a window to save presets. And if you save it in the user area, it'll come up within this list here. Okay, so that's our first video covered. Now we know where everything's located and what it's called, and a very basic level what it's there to do. Let's dive in and have a look at things in more detail. We'll start off with the oscillators. So I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.